Isaiah chapter 19 verse 14. The Lord YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI has mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his own vomit. Call HALALYAM La YAHAWAH BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI BAHASHAM RAWCHAA QADASH MASHAYACH LAHAMALAAKIM WAZAQUANYAM SHAWRACHAB GADAL Shalom Barakim Al Noah Adawan Ratazah Nachnoah Heya Shalabachayar YAHAWAH Ibad Arya Mayan HaGMS Orlando Camp. And I want to go into another video, just going over a variety of clips, little videos that I found on social media, just detailing some various Babylonian madness. I suppose I'll make that a series, because I come across a lot of different videos online, mostly Instagram and Twitter, sometimes YouTube, that will that goes into a plethora of different things, but it all forwards prophecy. Okay. Matter of fact, we can grab this. 2 Ezra 9:1. He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So we're seeing a whole lot of different signs come to pass, and as we pay attention to all these things, we're able to measure the time diligently in itself and conclude that we are inching closer and closer to the end of this present temporal evil world. Alright, so just jumping straight into the videos.
This is fucking crazy. What's crazier is the fact that women are not going crazy. Is the fact that military women... I'm shocked that the whole fucking United States is not on fire right now because of this shit. DOD reclassifies sexual assault as flirting under new policy. So a lot of things that are considered sexual assault, DOD has now reclassified it. So ladies in the military, you're about to find out what time it is. Under Trump's new military, women, you thought you were safe? The one place where women are very, very unsafe, military, where sexual assault is covered and thrown under the rug, where rapes are thrown under the rug. Now they've reclassified. Go ahead and sign up for that military, though.
Well, there's going to be a draft, so it ain't just about signing up. It's about you're not going to have a choice. And in fact, there's a video I'm going to play right after this, but it would be, because I have a relative in the military that recently, had gotten out, finally was able to, retire from that. But the reality is, if they're doing this on that level, within the within that realm, what do you think is going to be the case for the average American citizen? These signs, these are things that we look at. That's just the beginning, and it's not I'll just leave it at that. Because we have a lot more videos to go through.
Well, now that the merge has happened, and old fat Donnie just has to sign on the dotted line to get your sons and daughters to go off and fight, and his war to stay out of prison for pedophilia. All that remains is, the draft to be open. And I've been telling y'all since January that this was coming. No, it'll never happen. Well, it's here. And now the draft will open. Your sons and daughters will be forced to go off and fight. And all of you that say, no, not my daughter, not my son, Donald Trump has already said, anybody that refuses to go off and fight will be arrested and hanged for treason. He's already said it. He's already said he's going to hang everybody for treason that refuses to go and fight. So now, it's not only a war with Iran. The whole purpose behind joining the American military with Israel is so that Israel can achieve greater Israel. Now, Netanyahu has started a war with Turkey, and he's going to start a war with every country that is a part of greater Israel. It's not my problem to tell you what greater Israel is. If you want to know it, just Google it. You'll find it. But the problem is America wants to stand in the street and hold a damn sign instead of fight your government and try to save your children. Well, now your children are going to be forced to go off and fight and die. If they don't, they'll be hanged. That's your new reality in America. God loves you.
2 Ezra 16:31. Even so in those days there shall be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword, and the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travail therethrough. The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. In the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. Hear now these things, and understand them, ye servants of the Lord.
When we say that the IDF and the Israeli government are terrorist organizations, we're not being hyperbolic. We're not even basing this solely off the extreme levels of terror we watch them inflict daily on the peoples of Palestine and Lebanon. The IDF are not only terrorists, they are the original terrorists. They invented terrorism in a region now synonymous with that word. This is not up for debate. This is fact. Not sure? Then fucking listen up. In the 1880s, Jewish settlers began moving into Palestine with funding from Baron Edmund de Rothschild. Yes, those Rothschilds. To begin what Theodor Herzl, the godfather of Zionism, described as a colonial enterprise. Immediately, Palestinians were violently subjugated and pushed from lands on which they had lived for generations. Quote from Russian Jewish journalist Ahad Hem, they behaved towards the Arabs with cruelty and hostility, trespassed unjustly upon their boundaries, beat them shamefully without reason, and even bragged. And when did he say this? In 1891. In 1907, a group of recently settled Russian Jews formed a militia called BAHASHAM to protect these Rothschild-funded settlements and form a Hebrew military force that would organize and implement an armed uprising to bring about its ultimate aim, the creation of an independent Jewish state. In 1909, BAHASHAM was absorbed by the newly founded and larger Hashomer. In 1920, the Hashomer became the Haganah. Now the Haganah, they stepped things up. They contaminated water wells in Palestinian villages with typhoid virus, and they bombed a cruise liner deporting Jewish refugees. Their aim was to disable the ship, but they sunk the ship and killed 276 people. But don't worry, because the Haganah were only moderates. In 1931, a faction that believed the Haganah were not doing enough for the dream of a Jewish state split and formed the Irgun. The Irgun actively massacred Palestinian villages. They bombed the British administration headquarters in 1946, killing 97 civilians, and carried out multiple bombing and grenade attacks in crowded Palestinian civilian markets. The UN, Britain, and the US all described the Irgun as a Jewish terrorist group. They were condemned by Albert Einstein and compared them to the Nazis. The Irgun eventually became Israel's Harut Party, which would later become Israel's Likud Party. Sound familiar? That's because it's the party of Benjamin Netanyahu. But wait, it gets even better. The Lehi, or the Stern Gang, were formed in 1940 as an offshoot to the Irgun. The Lehi described themselves as terrorists. And just wait till you hear this. The Lehi sought to form an alliance with Nazi Germany during World War II. Lehi offered to take part in the war on the side of Nazi Germany in return for the establishment of a Jewish state on a totalitarian basis that would be treated with Nazi Germany. Even when the full scale of Hitler's atrocities became clear, Lehi's support did not waver. After the Nakba of 1948, the Haganah, Lehi, and Irgun all formed to create the IDF. 4 of the first 5 prime ministers of Israel were founding or prominent members of the Haganah terrorist militia. The 6th prime minister of Israel was Menachem Begin, commander of the Irgun terrorist group, who would go on to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979. The 7th prime minister was Yitzhak Shemias, a Lehi commander who would go on to serve 2 tenures as prime minister. So to be very clear, the IDF and the Israeli government are terrorist organizations and have been from day one. And this, you fucking Zionist dogs.
Proverbs chapter 4 verse 14 in the AMP. Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not go the way of evil men. Avoid it, do not travel on it, turn away from it, and pass on. For the wicked cannot sleep unless they do evil, and they are deprived of sleep, unless they make someone stumble and fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence.
War is thick. The United States is about to attack, drop a bomb on its own soil, and frame Iran for it, to rally the troops of America to go off and fight for the pedophiles at the top. That's right. An intelligence leak has come through. The reason that Joseph Sumar relieved his duty of the USS West Virginia nuclear submarine was because he was approached by Pete Hegseth and the higher-ups in the Pentagon to carry out this mission, and he refused. He flat out told them that he refused to carry out that mission, that he would not drop bombs on American soil when there was no threat. This is what's coming. Just as the Black Swan event that happened in 9/11 was portrayed and perpetuated, was done by Israel and the United States so that they could attack Afghanistan and blame Osama bin Laden. None of that was true. Just as none of this, which they are saying on the news about Iran, saying that they are planning to attack U.S. soil with nuclear weapons. That is all a false flag. It is a false flag created by the United States government. This is what's coming. But the United States government has relieved that nuclear submarine commander, and the new one will definitely drop the bomb on American soil. This is what's coming. Do not be fooled. And to hide this, the United States government will 100% sink that submarine to the bottom of the ocean, and you'll never see any of those sailors again. That is what the American government is willing to do to hide their hand when it comes to underhandedness. So this is what's coming. There's a false flag. America will bomb the United States to frame Iran for it, so that the United States can rally the troops and send hundreds of thousands of American men and women off to be killed to fight Iran. This is what's coming. Prepare your families. Do not be deceived. It's a false flag and a hoax created by the United States government. Prepare your families. We don't know where the bomb is going to drop, but the leak has come out and it's verified. So be ready.
So look at how far they're willing to go. Look at who we're dealing with. The scriptures describe them as the border of wickedness, and Amalek is the chief house of Edom, so they are the maximum level of wickedness, the maximum level of evil and depravity. And them organizations that perpetuated terror and violence, that was before the state was established. They were doing that to establish the state of small hats. And well, let's put it like this. The police of America first started out as the slave patrol. Now they're the police. Well, the IDF first started out as these different violent terror groups, and they have all come together to become the IDF today. And now they're merged with our military, and they have access to you people. Let's just put it straight like that. Okay? We've been telling y'all, we've been warning y'all, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone on down, been warning y'all that martial law will be declared, that World War III would take place, and there would be a draft, and you people would be subject to your houses being rifled, your wives being ravished, your children being carted off to war, being dashed against the stones, being destroyed, and your amenities being restricted, your freedoms being taken away from you, your privileges being taken away from you, and don't nobody want to listen. And now these are the guys that are in control. These are the guys that call the shots. Listen to what these dudes are saying from actual rabbis.
Buddhist and Christian, at least 6.5 billion people are idol worshippers that, according to the Torah, do not have the right to live.
We Jews are God's chosen.
And it sounds crazy, but there's a level of truth, because obviously they're the same. But according to the scriptures, any of these idolaters, which are all these different religions, yeah, the Lord's not standing for that, you know. So they be saying things like, you know, they speak about the Goyim, which goes back to the ancient Hebrew word Goyim. It just means nations, but they use it in a derogatory sense. But the reality is, yeah, the HaGoyim, the nations, they are meant to serve the nation of Israel, the true nation of Israel, though, not these guys. I'm talking about the elect, starting with the elect of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians, as well as you speckled bird Israelites scattered abroad that look like the other nations but are truly Yasharallah through the Spirit. Okay? That is true, but these guys take on the identity of the Most High's chosen people and pervert his words, pervert his will, and try to take matters into their own hands, which is why you have things like the Greater Israel Project trying to build their own third temple carnally and going to war. The scriptures say when the people return to the land, there would be no war. That's plain and simple. So you know that they're not the people, man. But anyway.
People, and the Gentiles must learn their purpose in life is to fight and die for Israel.
Because the most powerful nations in the world have to go down to their knees. That's what happened to Egypt. That's what's going to happen to America. That's what's going to happen to Germany. That's what's going to happen to France.
I would pretend that one missile came from Iran and shoot it down. Then all the Arabs will go against Iran. It will be the end of the problems. You make them fight with each other, this bunch of lunatics. You're going to see Spain, what you see in Paris, stores are burning, riots on the street. That's what's going to happen to every European country.
So this is how they get down, man. You know, and those are the type of Edomites that I like. You know, I'm not the first one to say it. I want them to be honest. I like an Edomite that's just going to speak their mind. Just keep it real. Don't pretend to be my friend, smiling in my face, but you really looking down on me, you know, calling me a nigger in your head. Say that shit out loud. You know, prove that what the scriptures say is true. You know, come in fully into your role. Just be who you are. You know, I love Edomites like that. You know, because it drives the spirit in me to meditate terror. You know, to cling to the words of the Lord. All right, knowing what your ass has coming to you, according to the words of YAHAWASHI Yahawashi. All right.
The reason we have 1,000 military bases is not for military power. They're lily pads for smuggling. That is how CIA smuggles gold, guns, drugs, cash, and small children for the elites in the United States. War is a profit center, not just for oil. War produces body parts. It produces orphans. It produces all kinds of human goods that can then be trafficked. And the banks rely on war and drugs for their cash flow, for their liquidity.
We've set out to overthrow functioning constitutional democracies in over 20 countries. We manipulated elections in dozens of countries. We created standing armies and directed them to fight. We went after ethnic minorities to encourage them to revolt. The first thing we did in Nicaragua was to go to the Mosquito Indians, who had never gotten along with the other people in Nicaragua very well, and give them more money than they had seen in the entirety of history, and arms and training and rationales and sanctuaries in Honduras, and sent them into Nicaragua to attack, kill, fight, pillage. And this has been a technique the CIA has used in Nicaragua, in Thailand, in Vietnam, in Laos, in the Congo, in Iran, Iraq with the Kurds, in different parts of the world. We created, trained, and funded death squads like the Treasury Police in El Salvador that are responsible for as many as 70,000 people, according to the count of the Catholic Church. And we've assassinated world leaders. You can never be sure how many people are killed in the jungles of Laos or the hills of Nicaragua, but adding them up as best we can, we come up with a figure of 6 million people killed, minimum figure. It has to be more than that. 1 million in the Korean War, 2 million in the Vietnam War, 800,000 in Indonesia, a couple of million in Cambodia, 20,000 in Angola, the operation I was part of, 22,000 in Nicaragua. For other reasons, we don't do these things in England, France, Sweden, Norway, Belgium, Switzerland, etc. These things are all done in countries of the third world where the governments don't have the power to force the United States to stop destabilizing the country and brutalizing their people.
Now this one I'm not going to play in its entirety because it's a real complicated scientific explanation, but basically Esau Edom is creating his own version of, chariots. Alright, we know that chariots are the spiritual vehicles of YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI, which the angels, pilot, which YAHAWASHI is going to return with, all the hosts of heaven on, the fathership and these different chariots, which the world calls UFOs and then IFOs or UAPs. From unidentified to identified flying objects to unidentified aerial phenomenon. Alright, but we know that they are the chariots, and we often see them from time to time in the skies. And we know that they're chariots because they don't obey the laws of physics. There was a big video of these men trying to shoot down. They had this very high-powered turret trying to shoot down a chariot, and the chariot was just flying all over the skies, effortlessly dodging all the missiles, all the bullets, all the gunfire. And these chariots, which he mentions how they basically harness plasma energy, and he goes into all the atomic particle fusion and elemental manipulation in order to be able to harness plasma using magnetic energy, and how it doesn't have to rely on inertia or gravity, but can bust a sharp right turn on a dime and dive into the water, not lose any speed, and the pilots don't suffer any G-force, and that's what the chariots are capable of. So now Esau Edom is using plasma aircrafts to try to simulate that power. Of course, he'll never really be able to reach that level, but nevertheless he's going to try, and that's what he's doing. So that's his you can see his Instagram right there on the screen. It's kind of blocked right now. Well, there it is. That's his Instagram if you want to go and watch the whole video. I guess I kind of played the whole thing already. If you were reading the subtitles, there's subtitles down there. But yeah, it's just a real, scientific explanation, so I didn't feel the need to play it, just to get to the point. But yeah, and that's the last video I'll play, Lord willing.
I'm worried about a situation in which the military gets used against the American people if they don't comply with Israel's wishes. I'm worried about that. You have to consider the conduct of the IDF, which should be considered a terrorist organization. Now, why do I call it a terrorist organization? Because they literally slaughter their own people. Not only do they slaughter innocent civilians, they also slaughter their own people, and now we have the silver bullet to prove it. Now, we've talked about the Hannibal Directive. The Hannibal Directive is when the IDF will literally shoot and kill their own in order to prevent them from being taken as hostages. That way, the hostage takers do not have any leverage over the Israelis. And it turns out these idiots on October 7th decided to video record themselves talking about the Hannibal Directive. Apparently, this even aired in Israeli television back in February. Break it all apart along with the soldiers who got abducted. Those are the hostages. In other words, kill the hostages too. Okay, so let me read you the full context of what they said in that video. The clip, which aired in February on Israel's Channel 12, shows Israeli officials in Israel's police command center saying, right now, I would bomb the entire Gaza border with artillery, hit them with a blow so they'd have a real problem, to which another Israeli official replied, it looks like they're on it. One Israeli official asked, they're not even getting fighter helicopters in the air. You think they're on it? And another replied, no, on Gaza, break it all apart, along with the soldiers who got abducted. So they're totally okay with killing their own just to ensure that in their minds, the enemy doesn't have leverage over them. Remember how much they pretended to care so much about the hostages?
Some of the government officials are nuclear level evil, including doing anything they want to their own citizens so they can grab more land for the greater Israel. They're a sick fascist government, and our sick, corrupt politicians say we should merge our military with theirs so they could take all of our hard-earned money that we spent on there and then use it potentially against us. And our media tells us, oh, that's all perfectly normal. Oh, is it normal? So can we do it with Turkey, a much better ally? That's the second largest army in NATO. How dare you? How dare you do it with, you can't merge our military with the Turks. Can we do it with the French? No, we can't do it with anyone.
With no one. Tom Cotton in the Senate proposing that we merge our intelligence organizations.
CIA and Mossad.
Yeah, disgusting. Anyway, it tells you everything you need to know about who controls our government, and it's not the American people, and that's a problem.
I'll just play this last one just because it's funny, and we'll close it out on that.
They want to make a deal. They want to make a deal so badly. They want to make a deal so badly. I do see a deal. It's looking very good that we're going to make a deal. This process should go very quickly. We're going to end that war very quickly. We're in the final throes of what will be a very, very good deal. And they want to make the deal a lot more than I do. We have our deal done with Iran, and it should be successful. We're making an amazing deal with Iran. They want to make a deal with us very badly. They're dying to make a deal. They're giving us a lot. They want to make a deal so bad.
2 Ezra 16:1. Woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria. Gird up yourselves with clothes of sack and hair. Bewail your children and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. A sword is sent upon you, and who may turn it back? A fire is sent among you, and who may quench it? Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away? May any man drive away a hungry lion in the wood? Or may any one quench the fire in stubble when it hath begun to burn? May one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer? The mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? A fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? He shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? The Lord shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence? The earth quaketh, and the foundations thereof. The sea ariseth up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also before the Lord, and before the glory of his power. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. Behold, the plagues are sent, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled, and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. So I pray this is edifying, exhorting and uplifting to the spirit and power of YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI. YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI, KAYAHAWAH, QADASH bestowed upon me to bring out this lesson and push forth this word. MASHAYACH laha mala'akim wazakwanyim shal rachab gadol shalom barakim al nawa adwan ratazah nachna wa haya shal habachayar wa barakim kabad hawad wa Allah la Yahawah wa YAHAWASHI samyad wa la awalamyam. Shalom.